Hello everyone, I got another quiz. This is how well do you know your horror literature? I don't know. I don't read a ton of it, but if it has a lot of the classics, I might know it. Um, if it's more newer stuff, I probably won't know it. So let's find out. Hopefully I don't embarrass myself too bad. Okay, who is the author of Dracula? Oh geez, seriously? It's one of my favorite books. That's Bram Stoker. Dracula is 1897 Gothic horror film? You mean book? Then introduced the character of Count Dracula to the world, while simultaneously popularizing many vampire myths and culture. The original novel has led to numerous films, theatrical performances, and television shows. I'm pretty sure film wasn't even a thing in 1897. I want to say it came out closer to like 1912-ish. I believe that's when the first Frankenstein movie was 1912. So obviously they got a big old typo right there, especially since it's wanting to know about literature. Anyway, Bram Stoker, that was a gimme question. If they're all like this, we'll do fine. Who wrote the popular ghost story The Haunting of Hill House in 1959? I know that one. I have a copy of it sitting over here on my bedside table. That would be Miss Shirley Jackson. She also wrote We Will Always Live in the Castle, which is also pretty good. I do like The Haunting of Hill House. I've read it a couple times. Written by Shirley Jackson in 1959, The Haunting of Hill House was a finalist for the National Book Award the year it was released, and is considered to be one of the best literary ghost stories of the 20th century. It is a good book. I highly recommend it. I think I talked about it in my horror books that I like one. American Psycho is about killer in the White House, rogue murder during the Revolution, Wall Street broker who is also a serial killer. Patrick Bateman. Published in 1991, written by Bret Easton Ellis. American Psycho is told in the first person by a young investment banker and part-time serial killer named Patrick Bateman living in Manhattan. I've read this. I prefer the movie. For me, it was a slog to get through the book. I really did not enjoy it. The movie is pretty good. They got Christian Bale and... Oh my god, they can't even get the author's name right! Yeah, this quiz is a mess. Joel Hill? You mean Joe Hill? The author of Horns, among other novels, is the son of which famous horror author? Well, I just about said it when I was fussing. That would be Mr. Stephen King. And it's Joe Hill, not Joel. Otherwise known as Joseph Hillstrom King, Joe Hill is an American author and comic book writer, son of Stephen and Tabitha King. Work includes novels such as Horns, The Fireman, Heart-Shaped Box, and more. He did, was it 20th Century Ghosts, I think was his. He's got a brother named Owen. Is there a sister as well? Owen's also a writer. Tabitha, Stephen King's wife, is a poet and writer. So it's a very literary family. Does he have 3 kids? Joe and Owen. I want to say there's a daughter. I'm not positive on that, but it's not asking if there's a daughter, so. I have read a couple of Joe Hill's books, and they're pretty good. Of course, I like the occasional Stephen King as well, so. Which of these novels was released in 1971? Well, that picture, if that's representing the book, is pretty obvious. If you like the movies, that would be The Exorcist. Written by William Peter Blatty, The Exorcist follows a young girl that is possessed by a demon and the two priests that attempt to exorcise the demon. After the novel was released in 1971, it was adapted into a highly controversial film in 1973. I'm younger than the book, older than the film. I was hatched in 1972. That time period was really good for some horror. There was a lot of good stuff came out in the early 70s. The Turn of the Screw is a classic novella adapted numerous times. Name the author. That's Henry James. Written by Henry James, first published in 1989. Is it that new? I thought it was older than that. The Turn of the Screw follows a governess caring for two children on a remote estate that she is convinced is haunted. Is it really from 1989? Now I'm curious and confused because I really thought it was older than that. Who wrote Interview with the Vampire? Howard. Anne Rice. Her birth name is Howard. Or was Howard. Sadly, she passed. Interview with the Vampire is a fantastic novel. I really loved it. The movie's alright. The novel was really good. Interview with the Vampire is a horror novel published in 1976 and written by Anne Rice. It was her debut novel based off of a short story that she wrote back in 1968. And I believe the character of Claudia was based on her daughter who died at a very young age. Now, what is the full title of the horror novel written by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley? Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. I have a copy of that sitting over here on my nightstand as well. Written by English author Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley in 1818, Frankenstein, or the Modern Prometheus, tells the story of a young scientist who creates human life by the means of an unorthodox scientific experiment. Mary Shelley is considered the one of the founders of science fiction writing. And her mother was Mary Wollstonecraft. So it gets confusing when you start talking about the Shelleys. Which was Stephen King's first novel? That would be Carrie. Carrie was good. Cujo was excellent. I just read it, and it, for me, was too long. I thought I had read The Shining, but I can't find any place where I have documented that. So maybe I didn't. Maybe I just watched the movie. I don't know. Released April 5th, 1974. Carrie was acclaimed author Stephen King's first published novel about a bullied high school girl who discovers that she has telekinetic powers that she uses to take revenge on her abusers. Pretty good book. The original Carrie movie, I want to say, was that 1976 that it came out as a movie? With Sissy Spacek is excellent. The remake, not so much. Clive Barker's The Hellbound Heart was adapted into which film? I'll give you a clue. It's got Cenobites in it, one of which is known as Pinhead. That would be Hellraiser. Come on, computer. The third volume of his Night Visions anthology series, The Hellbound Heart, is a horror novella by Clive Barker, released in 1986. The book is most notable for becoming the basis for the Hellraiser film franchise. I believe they either are about to release one or just released one this year. That's a really long franchise series. Oh, how well do you know your horror literature? Max Brooks' World War Z is about... Well, the Z is a big clue. It would be about zombies. I've seen the movie, haven't read the book yet. World War Z, An Oral History of the Zombie War, is an apocalyptic horror novel written by Max Brooks and released in 2006. The novel is a collection of individual accounts of a zombie plague. I believe Brad Pitt was in the movie. I think that's him here. For whatever reason, they like to cover up their faces with the stuff. The original author of the novel Jaws. Peter Benchley? Yeah, Peter Benchley. Released in 1974. Like I said, the early 70s were fantastic for horror. Released in 1974 and written by Peter Benchley, Jaws follows the story of a great white shark preying on a small oceanside town and the journey of three men who set out to kill it. The book was adapted into one of the most iconic films of all time. Yeah, the film is excellent, and the shark only gets just a minor amount of screen time, but it's so effective not seeing him. It makes it that much more intense and scary. Book's pretty good too. I've read it. Which of these novels is supposedly based on true events? Yeah, Amityville. It's a bunch of bullshit. The book sucked. Everybody's talking about how scary the book was. No, the book was not scary. It was stupid. The true scary part was the murders that took place before the Lutzes even moved into that house. Written by Jay Anson and published in September 1977, Amityville Horror is claimed to be based on paranormal experiences of the Lutz family, which has proved to be highly controversial over the years. Yeah, they haven't proven that any of that actually happened. Matter of fact, there's more evidence. I don't know if it's truly evidence, but there's more that supports that it's all fake and whatever than supports it being real. The DeFeo murders, though, that's the scary part. Read about that. Don't read about the nonsense that they were writing about the Amityville Horror. Watch the movie. The movie's good. As a matter of fact, I mean, when it came out in like 1977, 78, the movie, when they would play the previews on TV, I would get nightmares from the previews. Of course, keep in mind I was only, like 5 or 6 at the time. But still, it was enough to be very scary for me. Who is considered to be the founder of cosmic horror? Cosmic horror? Okay, well, let's see here. H.P. Lovecraft wrote about like Cthulhu and that kind of thing. Richard Matheson wrote I Am Legend and a bunch of other stuff. Neil Gaiman wrote Coraline, which I guess kind of leans into horror. Graveyard Book kind of leans into horror, but they're not truly horror novels to me. Peter Straub, I've never read anything by him. Why does it have to put a video up every time I'm looking at something? So I'm going to say H.P. Lovecraft, I think. I'm between Lovecraft and Matheson. Matheson wrote the one about the shrinking man. He wrote some stuff for Twilight Zone TV show. I think it's H.P. Lovecraft. Shall we find out? Correct. H.P. Lovecraft was an American writer known for weird fiction and horror fiction, with his style and themes becoming known as cosmic horror. I'd never heard it called that. He is best remembered for creating the Cthulhu mythos. Whispers is a book about a set of identical twins on a killing spree and this author's breakthrough novel. Okay, I don't know this one. I don't think I've even heard of Whispers. And this image isn't helping me any. Is that Dean Koontz? Dan Simmons is the one that wrote The Terror. Chuck Palahniuk? And I'm not sure if that's how you say his name. I don't know anything about what he writes. But I think it's Dean Koontz. Yes. Dean Koontz is an American author whose works have been described as suspense thrillers with elements of horror, science fiction, mystery, fantasy, and satire. Today, more than 450 million copies of his work have been sold. Dean Koontz is hit or miss for me. I have read a couple that I liked, and I've read a couple that I didn't like, that to me were garbage, but, you know, everybody has their own thing. Which book features a clown that manifests into children's worst fears? The one that's almost 1,200 pages long. And I just slogged through it because it's too fucking long. Oh, hi, Pennywise. That would be the Tim Curry one there from 1990. It is an extremely long fucking book. I'd say watch the movies. They're pretty close. Although I will say that I did like that there were some ties to other Stephen King works. Like, they mentioned Shawshank Prison several times. They mentioned Dick Halloran, who is in The Shining. There's something else that I can't think offhand what it was, but, and of course it's set in Maine. It is Stephen King's 22nd book and follows a group of 7 children who are haunted by a cosmic being that feeds off not only their flesh, but their fear. Yeah, it gets real weird. If you're a completionist for Stephen King books, by all means, read it. If you want to, like, complete a list somewhere of books to read it. If you're just wanting entertainment, I think you'd do better watching the movie and reading something else, personally. But that's my opinion. I'm not like I said, I don't read a lot of Stephen King. The ones I've read, generally I've enjoyed. I've read Cujo, which I thought was fantastic. I read Pet Sematary, which was fantastic. I read Misery, which I thought was fantastic. And there are also 3 movies that I like. Although Cujo, I prefer the book over the movie. Pet Sematary, to me, they're equal. Misery, they're pretty much equal, but I kind of lean toward the movie, but that's because I love Kathy Bates. I think she's a phenomenal actress. For me, the movies were better. I don't know. But, I mean, it's personal preference, right? So I'm not wrong, but that doesn't mean I'm, the be-all, end-all expert on it either. Somebody else may say, hey, it's the best book they've ever read, and they're not wrong either, It's just not my favorite. Richard Matheson's I Am Legend features a plague that turns people into what? They turn into vampires? I just read this one, too. Just like the beginning of October. Oh, come on, computer. It doesn't want to let me scroll down. There we go. It was Will Smith that was in the movie, wasn't it? But there's a guy who is fighting these vampire creatures and trying to find a way to cure them or whatever. I Am Legend, published in 1954 by Richard Matheson, about a post-apocalyptic world in which seemingly all human life is gone due to a pandemic that turns people into vampires. It was adapted into The Last Man on Earth, The Omega Man, and I Am Legend. There's like one guy and everybody else is vampires, and then later on in the story he comes across a woman who he thinks is human or normal, and then finds out that she's infected, but they have found a way to make it so that they can be out during the day and they can do various things and be mostly human, but they're still vampire. I don't know. It was something. It was a little convoluted, but it was pretty good. Which author's book was read on the radio and led to widespread panic for fear it was real? Who wrote War of the Worlds? Well, not Bram Stoker, not Victor Hugo. He's the one that wrote Hunchback. H.G. Wells? He wrote Invisible Man. And I have no idea who Laird Barron is. Could H.G. Wells have written it? War of the Worlds. Is it H.G. Wells or Laird Barron? I'm going to go with Laird Barron because I've never heard the name before. H.G. Wells, I should have gone. Dang it, I had it narrowed down. This is the first one I missed. So I'm holding my own on this quiz. H.G. Wells was an English writer who was prolific in a variety of different genres. His novel War of the Worlds was released in 1897 and caused panic among some listeners when an excerpt was read during a 1938 radio program. I didn't realize War of the Worlds was that old. It's as old as Dracula. Well, who the hell is Laird Barron? Yeah, I had it narrowed down. Oh, well. The Freudian concept of duality is explored in this Robert Louis Stevenson story, which is an excellent, excellent, excellent book. Absolutely should read it. That would be The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Robert Louis Stevenson was a Scottish novelist who is known for writing a number of notable novels from different genres. In his book, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the concept of duality of man is a significant theme. Which Washington Irving novel features the Headless Horseman? Well, it's not really a novel, but that would be The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Legend of Sleepy Hollow is a Gothic story by Washington Irving as part of his collection of 34 essays and short stories named The Sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon. Yeah, you can find it as like The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and other stories. I don't even think it's long enough to be considered a novella. Congrats, you finished. Here are your results. Nailed it. You're a master of horror. I got 19 out of 20. Not bad. Excuse me. I got a tickle in my throat. Not bad. And I had it narrowed down. I should have gone the other direction with the 50-50, but I had a feeling that was the one I was going to miss. So anyway, now that you know all the answers, feel free to go and get a 20 out of 20. Beat my score. Surprisingly, I have read the majority of the ones that they all, talked about, so... Okay, I think we are done with that. And I think we will wrap up this video. So remember to do all the YouTube-y things. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Ring the bell icon to be notified of future uploads, maybe. And I guess we'll see you in the next one. I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. I have some stuff ordered that I ordered at the beginning of October. It still hasn't been shipped yet. If it comes within the spooky season time frame, we'll do that one. I got a couple more ideas of things I want to do, but I have to watch some stuff first to be able to talk about what I want to talk about. I might do a follow-up on the vampire TV show one, because I have since watched some stuff. I still haven't been able to catch Interview with a Vampire, the TV series, yet. I don't have AMC Plus anymore. Got rid of that because it was too expensive and I wasn't working at the time. Now that I'm working, I'm considering maybe getting it back. I don't know yet. I could watch it at my client's house, possibly, but I usually get there, and by the time I can finally sit down for a few minutes, it's already like halfway through the show, so I haven't been able to catch it there yet. Oh my gosh, what in the earth? Before I have another coughing fit, I'm going to let you go here, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.